Hello, welcome to episode 29 of Photowalk Talk, the Photowalk and Photography podcast. I'm Martin, and with me, as ever, is my co-host Sandeep. How are you?
I'm all good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm very good because we have a guest. We've got somebody really interesting this week. We've got somebody who does lots of interesting stuff with film and cameras and pinholes and stuff like that. Pinhole expert, I would say. Justin Quinnell. Hi, Justin.
Hello. Hi there, people.
How are you? Thank you for joining us. So how we normally start this is we talk about what we've been up to, and as always with me, it's usually, we do this every 2 weeks, and when it comes to me, I've done no photography at all. But what I have done over the weekend before last, so Justin, my stepdad has a rather large collection of cameras. He passed away a couple of years ago, and probably for the 10 years leading up to him passing away, he would say to me, when I go, I want you to take whatever cameras you want and then sell the rest and give the money to your mum. And that's 2 years down the line, and I have done virtually nothing with them. But my mum is now, she's selling up and moving to a smaller place and needs rid of all these cameras. So last weekend, or the weekend before, I got them all out of this big cupboard, boxes and boxes and boxes, and I laid them all out on the floor to see what there was. And oh my God, I have never seen so many brown leather cases in all my life. There was hundreds of them. I counted 19 Agfas. I think there was like 3 models of Agfa, but just multiples of them. So there was like 19 or 20 of these Agfa cameras. And then I had another 10 Ilford cameras, another 12 Kodaks that are virtually identical. It was just hundreds of them. And so I pretty much ended up sorting them back into boxes, finding the stuff that I thought might be worth something individually, and the rest I'm probably going to have to try and sell sort of like as job lots, because I don't even know if half of it works. Yeah, I've got a lot of work ahead of me to try and get rid of all these cameras. I did find his Leica 3A, which I've been looking for ages, but couldn't find it in all the boxes because it was in another little brown case. So it was just impossible to find because it didn't say Leica on it. So, but I did find it in the end. So I'm keeping that, and that's staying with me. So I've got that out of it. But yeah, I've still got to now try and do something with all those cameras. If I can't sell them, I might have to try and give some away or something like that. My mum isn't even bothered about the money, really. She just wants them all out of her house because there is piles of them, and she can't take them with her. So, So I've loaded some film into the Leica 3A, and I've taken 3 pictures with it. So that's probably the first bit of photography I've done in a little while. So, that's me. Sandeep, you been up to anything the last couple of weeks?
No, I've been out and about as always. And when I'm out, I tend to carry my camera of choice with me on the day. I'm very much, as listeners probably know, it's one camera, one lens when I go out. I don't like complicated choices. So I took the Hasselblad out properly for the first time in a long while, and that was fun. And I forgot how much interest and conversation that camera, when people see it, brings, and it was brilliant. So I was talking to a few people, they're asking, about it, you always talk to someone that used to shoot film back in the day and are interested in getting back into it, and the usual, where'd you get it developed, who does it, and all that sort of stuff. So that was quite nice. So then I also took out my own one, and I loaded a roll of Kodak XX, which is normally rated around 250. Note to self, check your camera settings before you start taking photos. Last film in there was Cinestill 800. What was my camera set at? 800. The first few shots, I was walking in London. A friend of mine's got this, I randomly saw this beautiful classic Volvo, and I was like, I know that car. And it was my friend's car. So I texted him, and he was around the corner. So I took a few shots of his car, him there with it as well. Went to the pub, not with him, from the wife. Sat down, looked at my camera rating, was like, oh, it's on 800. Then it was, what do I do now? And I nearly put it back to 250 and thought right off what I've done. I thought, you know what? It's black and white, it's double X, it'll push. So I just left it on 800 and shot the rest of the film, even though it was like the brightest sunniest day of the weekend. Left it on 800, did a few indoor shots, a few more outdoor shots. Finished the film, well, not even finished film. And then I think it was Sunday, I had a little bit left in my Hasselblad, a little bit left in that Olympus. So mine, I don't know if you know, near us is the Gatwick Aviation Museum.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so I just popped there. So they got lots of old World War II aircraft, the Harriers, the Lightnings, a big Shackleton in the field and all that. So the few shots I had left on each film, finished them off. And so this is the first time in ages all my film cameras, and I only have a few, are empty. Not with film needing finish off and the film's going off to be developed. So pretty productive that way. So we'll see how everything came out and how the double X pushes, which I'm sure it will push fine. And I'm not against pushing film, I do it all the time. But it's just a bit annoying that, again, note to self, I always make little mistakes when I go out in photography and never learn, but there you go.
Well, Justin was telling me about before we started recording about he was taking pictures of pizza earlier. So, well, what else have you been doing recently?
Oh, me. I had World Pinhole Day, which is the last Sunday in April, which happened to coincide with my birthday, which is really cool.
Excellent.
And I usually do a free workshop like in the Bristol Community Dark Rooms or something, but this year I sold my soul and did a paid workshop at Laycock, Fox Talbot's gaff, and you know, just anything to do with being at Laycock and Fox Talbot's pad is just pinch yourself thinking, whoa, you know, I'm not worthy. I mean, it's amazing, you know, the whole thing. And so I had a whole gaggle of folk there and it was brilliant. We did a sort of family thing on the Saturday where we did a bit of turmeric photography and camera obscura fun. And then on the Sunday, went and did a pinhole photography workshop, a whole day's worth. The weather was wonderful. I stayed in my van with my wife. It was really cold, but it's the only time I've gone camping with electric blankets, which is not camping. I mean, that's just
You're almost glamping there, Justin.
It is awful, isn't it? And then today was, I was doing some DSLR pinhole, which I do with a Sony thing, just because I need some photos relating to Italy to publicise a sort of load of workshops I'm doing there. So there was my wife trying to have tea, eating pizza, and me with a pizza half in and half out my mouth and the flash gun and a DSLR pointing at it. And at one point she just went and said, well, this is a nice meal, isn't it? There's me with all this equipment stuck in my mouth. And yeah, she's very tolerant. So yeah, that's the sort of fun and games. I mean, yeah, there's a lot on, but just that sort of the play of doing the pictures was great. And I'm also testing two types of camera, if you can call it that, which I'm going to do workshops for at the Experimental Photography Festival in Barcelona in July. One of which is fine, well, not fine, because it's really difficult, underwater pinhole portraits, and the other isn't working right now. So there's a great idea that I've got in my head that I know works, scientifically works, isn't. So that's interesting, but don't tell anyone. I do have a fallback for it, but it's a sort of weird Abelardo Morel camera obscura thing, which you use your phone. I don't know. Again, it's as much play as photography, I think.
So did I just hear you right there at the beginning? So you did turmeric?
Yes, turmeric photography, absolutely
as in
amazing.
The spice.
As in the spice. It's an incredible process. It's fairly simple. I say fairly, but a lot of people mess it up. But it's one of those things that when you got the hang of it, you can teach 30 kids or get 30 kids each to do a picture at a primary school, let's say, and it cost about £1. And there's not much, you can't use sheets of photographic paper at 40p a sheet to do sort of like stuff with kids. But with turmeric, they can coat the paper, they leave it exposing at this time of year only for about 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and then they end up with a positive picture and stuff. You develop it with washing soda or equivalent. It's a mad process. What I love about it, and it's a bit bizarre, but what I love about the whole process is it eventually fades. It's this whole idea that, when people say, oh, it fades though, doesn't it? And I just say, yeah, so do you. I just love that living for the present rather than the idea of preserving everything for history and trying to become immortal. But it's just a great thing to do with education, turmeric photography. Everyone needs to know how to do it because everyone's an educator,
I'm guessing don't wear a white shirt though when you're doing it.
Very yellow. Strange that. Yes.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So how did you get into photography? Is it something you've always done, or is it?
I got into it through bird watching. My dad had an Exacta camera in the 60s, 70s, and I remember it went click quite nicely. It was all cogs and war, Then I ended up doing A-level and foundation, did a degree in it. When it was analog photography, when it was all sort of lenses and chemistry and all the rest of the stuff. And it was a fine art photography degree up in Derby with John Blakemore and a few other sort of Ansel Adams of the UK sort of types. And I didn't do brilliantly at the university. I got a degree, but that was about it. But it was when I was teaching, I ended up teaching, and I had about 15 GCSE kids in front of me, and I remember one had a Zenith B with a separate handheld meter and a preset lens, and you think, oh god, here we go. And somebody else had a single shot Instamatic, and somebody else had a sort of like automatic auto wind, and you can't teach how to do photography with all that stuff. So I just thought, okay, well, they can't afford cameras, but they can afford about 15 cans of Coke every day, so we'll use the cans of Coke as cameras. And I just got into pinhole that way. That's because they all at the same level. Yes, it's sort of like that was in the, I suppose, late 80s, late 80s. And then I've just been, the thing about teaching is that it's as much you end up creating so much with others. I do my own work, but there's a great overlap, and that's really fun. Yeah. So I got into pinhole that way, and I've done loads of stuff. I've been head of photography somewhere. I've been secondary school stuff, but I've been freelance now for about 24, 25 years, and I lecture at Falmouth. I've been associate lecturer there for over 20 years. That just means they have me for a few weeks a year. Associate lecturer means you're not a lecturer. I don't really find it sounds good, but it just means that they chew you up and spit you out again. No, they don't. They're very nice. But so yeah, I just do all my I teach around the place and do workshops, and more recently, sort of people have been using my photos. There's been a few bands around the place, and a Hollywood movie that's being made next year or coming out next year, where my photos are in the main person's sitting room. Which there's a guy called Jed Apatow who did Bridesmaids and stuff. Anyway, and he sort of wants my photos, and I thought I'd make millions, but I haven't. But so mad stuff like that comes in, and you just think, whoa, this is fun. And then, next thing you know, I'm emptying a dishwasher and feeding the cat. That's my life, really.
So is it generally, well, it sounds like it is, and looking through your sort of website and all the rest of it, you're heavily into experimental. Is that what drives you, keeps your enthusiasm going?
I think so. I think it's the not knowing what's going to happen next. And one quality of pinhole, which took me a good few years to really get into my head, was the fact there's no viewfinder. Okay, there's all the unlimited depth of field and all the building your own camera and all the stuff to do a pinhole photography, but not having a viewfinder is so special. It stops the view. Your viewfinder becomes in your head. It becomes your imagination. It becomes. You have to pre-visualize, rather like pre-visualizing with Edward Weston, Ansel Adams, the zone system stuff. You have to pre-visualize what tones are going to be, what shadow detail will be like with certain development and exposure, and which you won't get through 800 ASA film, I'm afraid. But it's that whole pre-visualization gets taken to another level when you have to learn the field of view and you have to sort of pre-visualize the angle of view and what's in the picture within an aluminium can. So it's the not knowing. And also the interaction. I mean, there's so much to do with social interaction, like with photo walks and stuff. We've had, I don't know where photography is going. I mean, there's a fantastic competition which the Sustainable Darkroom did last year, and they've got a book of essays coming out on the future of photography. And I submitted one, which is on my website. If everybody wants to read my 700 words of gobbledygook, mine got rejected, but it's still very good. The actual book that comes out, What is the Future of Photography, will be amazing because, look, where is it? What is it? We're now stuck in the AI stream and, but photo walks are people. And, it's pinhole photography. We do a lot of workshops at the Darkroom with either primary kids or adults recovering from addiction and other stuff. It's all to do with interaction. The reason the world's stuffed at the moment is because of the lack of actual human interaction. All you need is that. That's what you need. You need people to sort of meet each other and communicate. And it won't be the analog photography world, which I think is, it's just not this instant. It's something you don't download an app for. It's something really magical. So there's a lot to do with experimental, not knowing what's going to happen next. There's a lot to do with everything and the wonder of it all. And I could go on and on.
Do you think some of that is around? It's not just the social interaction. Well, it is mainly that the whole. And I'm going to use the cliche, the whole process of doing something that feels tangible rather than instant, that feels like you've worked at it and you've had an outlet, you or people on your groups and walks, a bit of an outlet for their creativity that they maybe not had the opportunity before.
I think if you know what's going to happen, what's the point? And I do know that the amount of, where photography is, it's very useful, but my daughter, hopefully she may not watch this, hopefully, but she showed me some holiday photos recently. She was just going swipe, 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 swipe. Photography now is a distraction. It's not a way, I can argue this, let's just say. And it's not a way that enhances our opportunity to see the world, which is what it's about. I mean, the photos that grabbed me, there were some fantastic images being taken, both analog, digital, all the rest, but it's people who can actually see the world, not just see a screen. And there's a massive difference out there. I don't know. I've got DSLR with a pinhole on. I've never had a lens for it. And, I sort of, I just love the not knowing what's going to happen next. Experimental alternative is about that. I also love camera obscuras. Camera obscuras, like the ones that people put them on their head. What I love about camera obscuras is it is not photography. You don't get a photograph. If you take a photo of a screen with an image, an obscura image, like the camera obscura in Bristol I was at last weekend, about 4 or 5 days ago, actually. You take a picture of the screen, it's just a picture, it's rubbish. See this actual reality, this moving image that's been like that since 1830s, 1840s, and people find it amazing. It's a projected, inverted view. But when people say, can I take a picture of it? I sort of think, no, just, don't experience it. One of the, it's the trying to live and the find wonder now. Without that, you're sort of losing it. I'm doing a talk at Barcelona EXP, and it's titled Why You Should Never Photograph a Total Solar Eclipse. Because it's there to experience. Anybody can get a picture of black cardboard and draw a yellow line, and there we go. That's the same as it was sort of like in Herschel was looking at it, and everyone else Delarue, wasn't it? There we go. It's there to experience, as is photography, and also as is your Leica, Martin. So, it's just that it's things like that. I'm as much of a bit of a, I love camera stuff, but that sort of whole, the wonder of it all and the sort of living for the now, I think is slowly but surely reinforcing itself, especially the older I get. The older I get, the more I want to have now last forever. So, it's a strange thing, but there you go.
And then you mentioned Barcelona a couple of times. You're one of the founders?
Well,
of the
I was there at the
or
beginning, and I helped write their manifesto. God knows why. I went and contacted them because I read about it, and I said,
sorry, just to be clear, so for our listeners, what is them and what's the Barcelona?
Experimental Photography Festival happened
Yeah.
in 2020 in Barcelona. I heard about it. I can't remember where from. It could have been one of the organisers. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll come down. I brought my camera obscuras and I did some workshops. And just basically, I've been to every one since. A lot of people do workshops there. I mean, I do a couple of free workshops and usually a few talks and conference things. So it happens every year. It used to be, the first one was in the winter. These ones now are in July. And yeah, it's just people from all around the world, really, who come together and experiment and play and interact and, go to the beach and just basically enjoy Barcelona in the summer. But there's a huge amount of experimental alternative that happens there. It's a very special place, but,
And then you talk about pinhole, but you also do quite long-term projects from what I've seen. So the one that I really liked was the Shipmaster Bristol. Yeah, like the 7 months, some sort of solography type can.
Yeah, the
pinhole long exposures.
solography is fantastic. I mean, I didn't invent photography. I did bring it to bring it to the UK. I sort of created the can camera stuff about 2006. And my first camera I actually I knew the bridge master on the Clifton Bridge, and I positioned it there with a lot of sort of like oohs and ahs, and had to take it down because somebody said, there's a weird bomb on your bridge, usual stuff. And I started doing them then, and they've got 7-month pictures. I did a 5-year project of a hospital being built. I should have put a camera up for when my daughter was born, because when I was doing the solography, she's 19 now. But just the idea of where you put a camera up for the whole of her life, where do you do that and stuff? And I'm doing a talk and a load of workshops soon at a processing lab in Bristol to raise money for a darkroom in Turkey, community darkroom there. But solography is incredible. That's another thing everyone should do. For 30p, they should do a sort of 3 or 6 month exposure picture of the sun moving across the sky, and the creativity behind it. That's another thing as well you find with experimental photography. I used to think cyanotypes were as dull as ditch water. Oh God, another fern. But the amount of mad craziness that people are doing with cyanotypes, people are doing with solagraphs and stuff. There's anything that has got this potential with it. There's a friend of mine called Maciek, and he's been doing a photograph, 6-month exposures, but with a little box in front with an automated shutter, which opens and closes at different times of the day. And he ends up with a negative which has got words spelt on it, written by the sun. And it's just pushing stuff. I love anything that's to do with astronomy and science and time. And it's all so simple because it's through a hole. It's just ultra basic wonder, and relates to sort of 2,500 years ago with ancient China and stuff. So I just feel that there's so much, the solography thing is incredible. And for 30p, every science teacher should basically, make a camera in front of their kids, tell the kids to come outside, install it somewhere high up so it's not football practice, and then leave it. Don't tell the kids why. And then December or January, take the camera down, look at the picture, and discuss the tilt of the Earth on its axis or whatever. There's just, for 30p, it's a no-brainer when it comes to getting, people interested. You can call it science, chemistry, history, recycling, call it anything, but it's wonder, and it gets people hooked into, the world around them, and that's good enough for me. But I'm glad you mentioned the solograph stuff, because it is very special, and it's just something you can make yourself. It's really cool.
And then you've got a lot of interaction with fellow, I'm going to say fellow professionals or fellow experimental people. You've got a lot of interaction with people in education. You do a lot of work with, as you mentioned, students, kids, all the rest of it. Do you find over the last few years it's growing? Do you think it's kind of what I'm trying? Is a sense of the industry is the wrong word. Sense of the people out there and the users, and is film and all this?
It's
Do you
growing.
see it's growing?
It's
And
growing, yeah.
what makes you say that?
Because I get schools asking me how to build dark rooms, how to make dark rooms, and the fact
Yeah,
that,
that's good.
you know, for years that became GCSE and A-level, they'd advertise it as digital photography to try and get more kids coming along. Now they're desperate for it to be sort of having bits of non-digital hands-on creativity. And I've been to a couple of colleges this last few months, and both of them had done dark rooms. Both of them had also installed red safe lights, but they weren't safe lights, they're just red lights, and they were fogging the paper. So I had to have a good explain about the difference between red and photographic safe lights with them. But I said, you know, because like you do not need to have a massive space with 30 enlargers. You need to have a room which you can do your pinhole, watergrams, you can do I don't know, just so, you know, bits of photograms. You can, you know, bits and pieces which just rely upon having a dark room, even have a camera obscura built into it. But you just need 3 trays, some chemistry, and, you know, a few red lights. And you can do so much with, you know, so little costs. But as you say, it is growing. It's huge. I mean, commercially, it's not. I think this is one of the things that, you know, when it comes to photography, making money out of photography, well, you know, Ray, that singer Ray, she ripped off some of my photos, or her company did in LA, and there's nothing you can do. You know, everyone's copying pictures. A blooming magazine in Taiwan took a load of my pictures and put their branding all over it and used that both hard copy and on their website. And apart from sending an invoice that just probably got completely deleted instantly, there's nothing you can do. You're stuck with it. And, you know, if somebody's got an amazing picture, it'll be right-click copy, right-click paste, and that'll be it. So making money out of photography or anything, you know, is proving to be very tricky. But photography itself is still really important, especially, or in my view, the sort of analog photography and the meditation of it all. I mean, we all went through lockdown. We all went and sort of coped with that. One of the ways I coped with it was learning turmeric photography, is experimenting and just seeing if it worked and seeing how to make it better. Being outside, the weather was great for a lot of lockdown, the early time. And you ended up just feeling as if you'd achieved. Whereas you can stare at a screen and do Photoshop for hours on end, and there's no feeling really of achievement. You know, it's like, as I said, but my fantastic article I wrote, which is on my website and is probably of no use whatsoever, but it starts off talking about how, you know, when I pop my clogs or whatever, people are going to go, oh dear, that's a shame, never mind. And then a few weeks later, my hard drive will be trashed, and that's it. You know, the idea of preserving things forever isn't going to happen. So, you know, get on with things now and really experience sort of, photography. So I'm still thinking about that Leica. What lens is it you got? What lens you got on it, Martin?
It's a 50mm f2 Sumar. It's the collapsible.
Okay, you should have answered that pinhole, Martin.
I'm going to ask about Sandeep's Hasselblad if he's got the wide-angle lens for it. Have you got that?
No, the standard 80.
Okay.
The like the kit lens. So, and again, I'll go back to I'm one camera, one lens. I don't want to change it. That's it. That's my setup. Job done. We would be remiss if we didn't ask you about your in-the-mouth pinhole camera.
I'm glad you said it. That was going to be my next question as well. Yeah, we got to ask about the in-the-mouth stuff. They're amazing. How do you do those?
Ooh.
And how did you come up with the idea of doing it?
110 cartridge films. Now, we're of an age where you probably remember that. Mm-hmm. In fact, Martin's probably got 400 or 500 110 cameras, which he's got to try and do something with.
Well, I've got one up here that I actually... I can't reach it, but I've got a little Kodak 110 that I bought for my daughter because I had one when that was my first camera, was a little Kodak Brownie 110.
They still make the film. It's quite cool.
Yeah.
And they make it for sort of the Minolta users and the Pentax stuff. But I basically used that film and 126 for pinhole cameras because you got 24 photos in the cartridge. It's light tight, put a little box on it. It's an amazing thing. And I used it for its indestructibility. You could chuck them around, play badminton with them while they're exposing, just stick them everywhere. You'd kick them down the road. You'd have pictures of journeys. And the 110 one, I was looking at it and I just thought, hang on. So I stuck it inside my mouth and I thought, And my degree in photography and my knowledge of, sort of in unlimited depth of field and inverse square law and electronic flashes and synchronized flash units and all the stuff I learned I remember it I just thought, whoa, that can work. And then it was like, hundreds of photos failing dismally, but knowing it could work. And then I swear I did get the hang of it. It's not easy. So I started taking pictures from inside my mouth. I mean, you got to have quite a big mouth. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Sandy, you should try it with the Hasselblad, but I think stick with the 110. And then synchronized flash stuff. But I'm going to do a load soon, a few weeks' time in Florence. Going to do some there of a sort of tribute to Brunelleschi and stuff. And I did some portraits of Martin Parr, a few weeks before he died. Didn't know he was going to die. I did a load of portraits of him, and I messed up the film. So it's how it goes. It's a bit hit or miss, the whole game. And I did them 20 or 25 years ago. They're all, not all, but most of them are a long time ago. And one of the things about the internet is nobody can see the fact that you're really not really boring, ugly old bloke. People don't know how old you are if you keep your sort of picture off the internet as much as possible. But the mouth pictures are funny. There's a huge, for a long you cope with a lot of shit. Sorry, but you cope with a lot of crap. Anyway, you get a lot of people giving you a hard time because, the word wacky, if I hear the word wacky, it's people analysing the person rather than the photos. And that really annoys me. And I've had people laying into me from, some big places and stuff. And you just think, well, what is this? And it's because there's an element of playfulness that can sort of frighten people. I think because a lot of my photographs are about photography, there's also, I quite like things that make people go, and there's a whole load of sort of like weird taboos in photography, which I quite like breaking. I mean, I would be able, one day I'll tell people about some of the things I've done, but not now. But it's it's rather like, doing, a mouth picture of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I'm going to try and do that. It's just interesting. I just find it sort of, odd. I love portraits with them. I love that. But I also love like brushing my teeth with a dead spider. It's disgusting. It's horrible. There. No, it's not. It's just a picture. It's a picture. It's interesting. We've got, Joel Peter Whitkin doing his stuff. I walked in on one of his workshops once. If you want something that's not nice, it's that. And, if you want to look up his pictures, please do, but don't before you go to bed. There's things that even some social documentary stuff sort of upsets me in some ways, but I don't know. I just love photography. I think this is something behind it all. I love photography. So you sort of think, right, I found a way of taking photos from inside my mouth. Let's see where we can go with that. And it could be a tourist place. It could be eating something. It could be loads. I mean, it's one thing at Barcelona I'm doing is underwater pinhole portraits, which is, you have to fill the camera with water before you hold it underwater and do the picture. It's not making things easy. It's absolutely stupid. I've got to smuggle these things into the swimming pool as well, because I'm not going to ask for permission because people will just sort of like, run you out the country.
Yeah.
So it's all that stuff. But yeah, Mouthpiece got published by Dowie Lewis, which is fab because it gave it a sort of an air of respectability, whether people like it or not. But I am still getting... I'm interested at people trying to cope with images. I find that's interesting. I've got a lovely image, which I absolutely adore, which isn't a mouth one, but it's just, I don't know why I take loads of pictures of toes and ears and other things, but there's one of a plastic duck in my toes, and it was going to be exhibited. They wanted me to exhibit a photo of this place in Bristol. I said, okay, right, it's quite a fancy place. So I went and sort of said, right, here we go. And they said, oh, no, we can't do that. And I thought, oh. So
Not traditional enough for them.
Well, I don't know. It's like, it's definitely not traditional, but it's like when you see something different or new, and I see them all the time. I see wonderful stuff. I was looking at some today from this guy in Milan who I went and said to, go on, let me do a workshop there. And he said, no. But his photos are brilliant, and it's just nice to sort of see new stuff that really affects you. That's why things on walls are so cool. They don't go, they're still there. It's just a shame that there's not enough of that. There's not enough. I mean, I quite like I did a whole load of A0 photos, just photostated them at £4 for big A0 and just pasted them on walls in Bristol. Because, everyone pastes stuff in Bristol. If you stand in one place for 5 minutes, you get tagged in Bristol. So, it's a place where basically everyone does whatever they want, but it's quite funny. And so you can do these sort of pictures and put them up, and it's great. It's really interesting, especially when there's an image with no advertising and no link into anything. I did a load of pictures of turmeric photos on bread last Martin Parr Books on Photography thing. So I did, when people came, they did their bread picture. So we flattened the bread, paint turmeric, put objects on out in the sun, paint the soda on. So I had all these slices of bread with images on. And then they're in the freezer right now. And I made a little book. There are only 2 copies of it. One which my family can throw away when I pop my clogs, and Martin Parr Foundation, I got the other one. And what I did with the book is it's basically all these slices of bread with the A, B, C, D, E. It's a children's book. A for apple, B for ball. But there's nothing on it. There's no name. There's nothing. There's no relevance. You can't see. There's nothing. It is just that. And I really like that. I really like the fact that it's almost, it's neutral. It is what it is. It's not pretending or trying. So that was fun. That was a laugh. I enjoyed doing that.
So let me ask you something. When you see an image, regardless how it's taken, what it's done, what medium, the impression I'm getting is you look for something that stands out for the norm. And what I mean by that is really sort of challenge point. Where I'm going with this question, what is it that really tells a story in image? What do people, so if I've got a camera in my hand, there's 2 types of photos, right? To me, there's 2 types of photos, well, 3. There's family, it doesn't care what it's like, there's family, it's important. There's documentary, so you're photographing a time, a place, matters how it comes out, but doesn't to a point. And then there's, I've got a vision. This is my photo that's trying to show my vision. And to your point, I don't have any titles or anything. What gets you going? What do you think is, for those 3 examples, are they all important? Does it matter? Do we just create, and why label?
No, I think they're all. I mean, I love photography. I love social documentary. I love landscape. I think landscape's sort of brilliant. I love the marine and natural history stuff. I helped teach that at Falmouth. The whole, every element of it. You say vision. When people have vision, there are these pictures I saw today, and they're good. I'm trying to picture, I can't remember the guy's name, which is a shame. And they all looked a bit pinholey, but they were sort of 5/4, but with movement and beautiful toned and just absolutely fantastic. And then you look at other social documentary, rather like The Last Resort or whatever, Martin Parr's his just a show that's coming down soon. Now, social documentary, I've got a bit of a problem with, because Bristol got taken over with it, and everybody everywhere does social documentary because of Martin Parr. And that's fine, that's okay, but I do find it a bit frustrating when their social documentary it doesn't have any of the social interaction. I find that's a bit weird, and that's the bit with Martin that I always would sort of respect. He would always talk to everyone. He was very much of a person. So, that was good. I still find some bits of it tricky. I think everyone does, but that social, it's the interaction. I was chatting to Chris Hora, his name is, who's doing some photos of some of the far right in Bristol, going and asking if he can photograph them and stuff with the flags and all the rest. And this guy's, it's fascinating. There's Wayne Belger in America photographing people who have got, guns and submachine guns and tanks and, think we're going to be invaded any minute and stuff. There's people out there, but they're interacting with people. And it really shows, I think. So, I think all parts of photography are amazing. I really do. I mean, I've taught it. I've taught A-level and stuff and, bits on the degree course. I love the history of photography. I absolutely adore that. It's a real, I love that. It's really special to me. And luckily the stuff I do relates a lot to that. But, whether it be, amazing natural history stuff or whether it be landscape or whether it be portraiture, some portraits I look at and I think it's just not there. And I think that's one of the most difficult things, is to have a portrait that is actually a portrait, which is something that's got stuff going. There's so many that just don't seem to work. It's posed, it's a photograph of somebody being photographed, and that's sort of not right. Whereas, I mean, when you can remove that, I do this thing called, it's a walkogram, and I got a pinhole camera, and I tell people look into the pinhole, and I do a flash. But when the look on their face when they're looking into the pinhole isn't one of being photographed, it's one of, what am I doing? And their face is neutral. Their face is as they are. And it's amazing. Suddenly, it's that got their essence or whatever on this image. And there's I don't know. I love all sorts of photography, and I even the phone stuff. Obviously, we all play with that, but to actually slow it down and see decisive moments or whatever is so special. And I quite often see them, and I just sort of think, oh, I've only got a phone. And it just doesn't seem to do the same thing. I have got an Olympus over there sort of thing and stuff, and I should use it more, but I just get carried away with the pinhole, I think, a bit too much.
Yeah.
Is there a process or a type of photography you haven't tried yet, or that you're dying to try?
Lippmann process. Wow, that'd be great. R4 reversal would be great. I'll tell you what I'd love to do. I'd love to find a way of doing autochromes. Autochromes were this early colour process that used three mounds of starch grains of blue, green and red colour. And then basically you coat a photographic plate, jumble up all these grains, chuck them on, photograph something through it, develop the plate in positive, look at it up into the light, and you get a positive. Nobody does them because it's so difficult. And I would love to find an easy way of using instant mash of doing that. But so that'd be fun. I think that, with the pinhole thing, there's always new bits and pieces. I mean, this Abelardo Morel, I'm trying to create a camera obscura which uses a pinhole combined with a phone photographing the projection, and I want it so you can make it out of an A4 piece of paper or piece of card, and it's not working. So I'm interested with that. I think the maths are right. Not that I know anything about maths. So I mean, that's really fun. It's really silly. I sort of wake up and I think, oh, hang on, that's interesting. That hasn't been done. And then when it fails dismally, I keep quiet about it.
Cool. So obviously in the show notes we'll put what your website is. So you're on. I've seen you're on Instagram. So you've got any other places where people can find your work?
I mean, basically, it's either Instagram or my website. I sold a few to your museum here and there and things like that. the exhibition sides of stuff. I'd love to do an exhibition of camera obscuras. I've got 20 years of different camera obscura designs, but no one's interested. It's a real shame, and they're just, I've got a shed in my garden that's just full of sort of stuff, and it'd be really fun to play that. But yeah, pinholephotography.org. I would like to there's a chapter on it, or a link which says classroom projects, and to me that's all. During lockdown I assembled all the stuff that schools could do, videos and handouts and all the rest, and basically sort of like compiled it into one unit. So if anybody's interested in education, that's all for anybody to use. So that's fun. I quite like that as a sort of a special bit anyway, to for people to make the most of. And Instagram's just bizarre. I don't understand it at all. I've got no idea. All I know is that they put stuff on and weird people contact you, and then you have to delete them when. I don't know. I being honest, I absolutely love it. I mean, it's horrible because it's a commercial. You end up being distracted by kittens and stuff like that. But it's. I quite like this ultra low tech, and I love the international stuff. I mean, I do a few things in Bristol, but most of my stuff I do is outside the UK. I find the UK is social doc, and that's what they want to see, and they want to sort of see stuff that's a bit miserable. Whereas like the playfulness sides of stuff, it's more elsewhere that people get a kick out of that. And it's like today I was chatting to Sasho from Macedonia, and he's brilliant. Then there's another person from Italy, and it breaks down boundaries a bit, I suppose, in Instagram. But I after saying that, to actually have sort of solid images. Oh, there is a bar in Poland with my mouth pictures right now. Somewhere with loads of Zs. There we go. It's just most part of Poland, really.
There you go. If you are in Poland, go and have a look in at all the pubs and see if you can find some mouth pictures by Justin. Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you for that. Well, might as well just do a quick update on what's going on with photowalk.me. There's a few photowalks coming up over the next week or so. There's one in Milton Keynes with Sam Knight on the 9th of May at 12:30. There is a photo social street portraits at London Hat Walk with Paul Mortimer on the 10th of May at 1:30. There's a cathedral on Bishop's Garden in Norwich, Shoot Film Norwich, on the 10th of May as well. And photo social again, got a Walthamstow Wetlands Walk with Nathan McClune on the 16th of May. And then there's a grand tour of Oxford City Centre with Dave Sadler, which I'll be going to on the 16th of May. So I'll be going to Oxford for the first time to have a wander around and take some pictures. And then there's also the Full Frame podcast there, Spring Photo Walk to Photographica in London on the 17th of May at 10 o'clock. So there's a few things coming up. We had 3 or 4 photo walks for Pinhole Day. They seem to have went well. I think there was one in Edinburgh, one in London. And I can't remember where the others were now, but we had a few. We put up an events page for Pinhole Day, and got a few photo walks there. Excellent. All right, well, that's it. Thank you both again. That's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or questions, please email us on podcast@photowalktalk.net. Make sure you're subscribed to get new episodes as and when they are released. Thank you, and bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.